Well, thank you, President Wowkanech, and let me thank Bob Challenger, the president of AFSCII 200. Where are you, Bob? You left me already? You're in the back. Okay. Thank you very much for vividly talking about the consequences of the shutdown. I'm pleased to be here with Congressman Norcross and Van Drew, all of us who have voted already on more than one occasion to open the government and to get people back to work. And that is our fundamental message. There is no reason to have had a shutdown. There is no reason to hold federal employees hostages in a negotiation. There are all types of departments that have absolutely nothing to do with the question of border security. The Department of Agriculture, Commerce, Transportation, and so many more have absolutely nothing to do with border security. There's no reason to hold those federal employees hostages. So our message here is very simple to start off with. Open the government, get people back to work, and we can figure out what border security is at the end of the day. I appreciate the Teamsters hosting us, Marcus King, the National Air Traffic Controllers, the National Federation of Federal Employees, and the and the Federal Managers Association, all being represented here, and above all, the federal workers, some who I talked to briefly at particularly at the FAA Tech Center. Look, we have all fought as a delegation to bring millions of dollars to the Tech Center to create state-of-the-art technology so that we can have the finest aviation system in the world and create new opportunities for employment. Those millions of dollars go lying. We're going to pay all these employees eventually. Why not pay them while they're working at the end of the day instead of paying them subsequently? And paying them subsequently doesn't help them now when they have major challenges in their lives. So again, no reason not to have these employees working. Now, I know in this part of our state, there's a history of President Trump. He did a good job of screwing over casinos and vendors and employees when he was in Atlantic City. Now he is running the government into the ground, and 800,000 American workers aren't getting paid. We've had enough. And I just simply hope Senator McConnell will send to us what these gentlemen have voted for in the House, that we keep all the parts of the government open, including the Department of Homeland Security, for which we could negotiate what real border security means. And if that vote comes before the Senate, I can tell you, I am sure that it would pass in an overwhelming vote. But Senator McConnell has not placed it on the floor. So we need to open the government, end the shutdown, and let the federal workers do their jobs. Now, I've had the chance to speak to some of the more than 5,000. I thought it was originally 5,000. It's closer to, when I looked at the numbers, to closer to 7,000 federal employees that are affected during the shutdown. All of them are public servants who do important work for our state and for our nation. They're Coast Guardsmen and women protecting our seas, IRS workers getting our refunds out the door, air traffic controllers and TSA workers keeping our skies safe, innovators testing new technology at the FAA Hughes Technical Center. Anyone with a beating heart should be able to empathize with these Americans and what they're going through, struggling to feed their kids, pay the mortgage, tuition, take care of a loved one. These are just some of the many stories I've heard over the last nearly month. But here's the problem. The president doesn't seem to care about anyone but himself and his vision as to how he has an electoral win. This is beyond that. This is beyond that. It's very difficult when the president says, I understand how people feel, when you started off with $8 million in your early childhood as a amount that was gifted to you. It's very difficult to believe that Don Jr. ever had a tough day in terms of making ends meet. So it's very difficult to believe that the president understands what he's putting people through by keeping the shutdown. I don't think he understands that most middle-class families can't afford to miss a paycheck. So last month in the Senate, Democrats joined Republicans unanimously. The president sent us a budget. That's how the budget process starts. He sends a budget to Congress. Congress can change it and can offer a different view. Congress accepted what the president said in his budget $1.6 billion new dollars beyond what was already sent, which has not been spent by the executive branch, by the administration. So we accepted it. Vice President Pence said, if you vote for this, the president will sign it. And so in December 18th, it passed unanimously through the United States Senate. It's only when conservative commentators who we did not elect to the government started up and started saying, no, this is the time, you've got to get the wall and everything else, that then the president say no to what he had said yes to before and said, no, I won't sign that. You have to send me $5 billion, not the $1.6 billion you asked for. And then it went up to $5.7 billion. And he's decided to hold federal employees hostage. Now, if this time this happens, the next time federal employees will be used hostage for some other purpose again. That's why I'm proud that in the House and in the Senate, we passed legislation saying that in the future, federal employees have to be paid even if there is a shutdown, because we shouldn't hold you hostage at the end of the day. Look, we believe in strong borders.
What about the
We believe, and I'm going to get to the contractors next. We believe in strong borders, and we believe that there are ways to smart securities. We believe that there are invasive scanners and technology to catch vehicles coming through our points of entry that can see whether there's human smuggling and can also see whether there's drugs. Most drugs that come through our nation come through points of entry, legitimate points of entry. We believe that we can do that and have greater assistance to help those points of entry. We believe that there's new technology, thermal technology, to detect unauthorized border crossing and hidden tunnels. There's better infrastructure and more personnel at our ports of entry. We're happy to vote for all of those things. But at the end of the day, this is more about having an issue than it is about having a solution. Now, federal contractors. Federal contractors are not directly federal employees, but they suffer as much, because at the end of the day, if there is a shutdown, they ultimately do not get paid whatsoever, unlike federal employees who are going to pay at the end of the day, even though that creates pain during this period of time. They're going to get their pay, but there is no guarantee of federal employees federal contractors who are also affected by this. So in the interim, we have asked all of the federal contractors to consider the consequences on their employees, and we are also offering legislation that would make sure that federal contractors also would get paid in any future shutdown. And that, we think, is incredibly important. Let me just close, because this is Dr. King's anniversary, and he had a life of service, but his words were poignant today as they were then. He warned against the politics of division, noting that whenever Pharaoh wanted to prolong the period of slavery in Egypt, he had a favorite formula for doing it. What was that? He kept the slaves fighting among themselves. Dr. King understood that working people must stand united in order to be heard. That's how he died. He died with workers in Memphis, on the verge of helping them organize. That's why here today we remember his words, and most importantly, we remember the dignity of every person, in this case federal employees, who do work that's critical for our nation. Let's get the government open, let's pay our federal employees, and let's get back to work. And that's what we're going to try to do. Thank you, Bob. Thank you. You know, we're very